Let's get into this now with political reporter for Politico, Eli Stokols. He joins us from the Politico newsroom in Arlington, Virginia. Eli, you just heard the spin there from Kellyanne Conway about the transition turmoil. You've been covering the Trump transition in your reporting. What are you hearing from the inside?
Well, it's nice that she's reading Politico, right? I think that, she's right, and it's true that, this is a huge job. 4,000 positions to fill, 1,200 that need confirmation. This isn't something that you rush. And so it's not exactly that they're behind schedule, but the chaos and the backstabbing and the infighting and the turmoil inside Trump Tower and this entire transition operation is real. It's just as real as it was when it was, part of his campaign. We've seen this for 17 months as part of the campaign. It's not going to stop now. It's just a matter of, this transition was something that up until early last Wednesday morning when the results became clear, this was abstract for Trump and his team. This was not something when they were expecting that they would lose that they ever really thought they would have to deal with. And so, yes, there were attorneys in Washington working on this, compiling names. Yes, Chris Christie was put in charge. But honestly, if this was really something that they thought they were going to have to utilize and switch into high gear, Chris Christie, who does not have the trust of Jared Kushner, who's just thrown overboard earlier this week, he would never have been given even the honorary role of transition chairman because they would have placed more value and importance on it. So I think they've been caught a little bit flat-footed, and I think they're now reconciling with the fact that this is a very insular campaign, a lot of loyalists, kind of a pirate ship of rogues, and you're going to need more people than that to fill out the federal government. And I think even some of the closest people that, Trump feels will be the most loyal, who he'd like to see in some of these roles, there are questions about whether they can be confirmed. And so I think they're grappling with a lot of that. He'll present it, just like he said in the tweet, as if it's another episode of The Apprentice, only I know who the finalists are going to be. Tune in and wait for the surprise, and the drama and the back and forth with the press is, that also was a staple of sort of our coverage of this race, and that will continue. But I think there's just a lot of dust that needs to be settled right now. They may have some ideas as who they'd like to put in some of these top cabinet posts, but I think they're still trying to figure it out before they make the final decisions.
Speaking of tweets, Eli, in a series of tweets this morning, Trump railed against the New York Times and their reporting. While his combative tone with the press, it's really nothing new. We know that he's done this, but is it shaping up to be problematic now that he's President-elect Trump and he's no longer just a candidate?
Well, it depends how problematic for whom? Not for his supporters. His supporters are used to him trashing the media. They love it. It endears him to them. The media has, popularity ratings that are barely higher than Congress. But I think, in terms of coverage of the administration, and maybe that will change in terms of the public and its expectations of someone who's not just a candidate or reality TV figure, but who is actually the president. Maybe they will start to hold Donald Trump to a higher standard. That remains to be seen. But it is a little problematic for those of us in the press who are used to a president who recognizes the value of having a protective press pool, doesn't just ditch the press pool and go out for a steak dinner because he feels like it. Someone who understands the gravity of being the president-elect and soon the president, and who understands the importance of having reporters around to document what he's doing at all times, just for history and because of the how consequential he now is. I think that's interesting. I think the back and forth, the trashing the media, we're all used to that. That's, we all have pretty thick skin when it comes to that. It's more about access, and I think Trump can sort of continue to beat that drum for a little while, but I think he's going to have to produce some results. I think a lot of people may tune out the noise, but they may also eventually start to tune out Trump and the media criticism, blaming the media for things if they don't like which way the country's going.
And as you point out, Eli, the red meat that is thrown to his supporters when he attacks the media is well documented. But perhaps a lot of people may not understand what the press pool is supposed to do. For example, it was put into place after President Kennedy was assassinated so that at all times the American people would be informed as to what the President of the United States was doing. That's how we know what George W. Bush was doing during 9/11. He was at that school reading that book to those kids. So explain to our viewers who may not be aware of what happened last night when Donald Trump went out to dinner without the traveling press pool.
Well, I mean, you know, there are a bunch of reporters who are sort of camped out in the lobby of Trump Tower, and there is a print pooler, there's a TV pooler. These are people who follow the president-elect's movements, the movements of his staff, and who report that for all the other outlets so that everybody in the media is aware of what the president-elect and his staff are doing at all times. And at the end of every day, the staff will issue what's called a lid. That means there's no more movement, there's no more activity today. The pool can go home. Well, they did that last night about 6:30, and then the next thing you know, around 7:30 or 8, there was a tweet from another reporter who was at the 21 Club showing Donald Trump on video walking in, getting some applause, talking about reforming the tax code, and sitting down to dinner with his family. And that vexed a lot of us in the press, especially the people who were at Trump Tower and assigned to pool duty, because they were trying to fulfill their responsibility to the rest of us to document Trump's whereabouts and what he's doing, his movements. And the next thing you know, they find out that they were told the day was over, there was a lid, then he's out to dinner. Not that anything happened at that dinner that was of that much consequence, but, you know, if something did happen, they would not have been in position to cover it. And I think that's what, you know, what we saw a little bit of anxiety about this on Twitter last night. And what you're hearing today is this ongoing debate about will Trump abide, you know, follow convention and allow that sort of access. You know, during the campaign, there were no reporters allowed on his actual plane. Access to Trump was very limited. And I think in terms of a free press that actually is capable of doing its job and documenting the presidency in real time, that's very much up in the air, even though his campaign and Hope Hicks, his spokesperson, has said, even after last night, that that will be in place. It will exist in the way it always has. They're just still working the kinks out. I think it all remains to be seen, though.
Eli, before we let you go, I want to ask you, we know President-elect Trump met with New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, and Trump once called him probably the worst mayor in the city's history. What was this meeting about today?
Well, I mean, I think it's sort of pro forma, and de Blasio did a press conference outside Trump Tower afterwards, focused mainly on, you know, that said, yes, it was a cordial meeting, but I told Trump, you know, I'm worried about his tone. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about lowering taxes on the rich. I mean, de Blasio is a pretty liberal guy. Donald Trump and the Republicans in Washington now have, you know, a chance to really make a mark legislatively in terms of pushing through a very conservative agenda. So I think there's a pretty pro forma meeting. I don't expect that Bill de Blasio convinced Donald Trump to, you know, abandon any of the policy agenda items that he's looking to get to in his first 100 days. But, you know, they all have their constituencies. You know, I think in New York, about 90% of New Yorkers voted for Hillary Clinton. So politically, it makes sense for de Blasio. Donald Trump, you know, fielding phone calls from dignitaries. I mean, you know, having a lot of people stop by, the mayor of his home city, is just sort of another box to check. But I don't think I would put too much importance on that meeting.
All right, we'll see how this all plays out. Politico's Eli Stokols, we thank you as always, buddy.
Thanks, guys.